A very good morning, students. Welcome back to Java programming class. In our previous discussion, uh, we discussed about methods in Java programming. That is, how we can add methods to our classes and yes, methods to our classes and how we can call those methods with the help of object reference, and when we are calling, how we can pass the parameters to methods, how we can return values from methods, and all these things we discussed. Okay, so yeah, we also had the discussion about constructors. Yes, constructors. So we said constructors are nothing but they are the special type of methods. They are similar to the regular methods. Okay, they're not having all the things in common, but few things you will have in common with methods when we are talking about a constructor, and few special properties also a constructor will have. Okay, so yes, generally the purpose of constructor, we said, to initialize a class object. So whenever you are creating an object, to allocate the memory for that object, or to initialize the internal data members, internal instance variables of that object, we are making use of the constructor. Okay, so quickly read out these points over here. Java allows objects to initialize themselves when they are created. Okay, this automatic initialization is performed through the use of a constructor. So by making the use of a constructor only, we will allocate the memory to an object, we will initialize an object. Initializing the object is nothing but initializing the internal instance variables of that object. Okay, so a constructor initializes an object immediately upon creation. So you no need to write any special statements in order to do so. Whenever you are creating, simply pass the parameters or uh, initialize the values whatever you want inside your instance variables. So at that point itself, when the object is created, at that point itself, all the internal instance variables will be initialized. Okay, it has the same name as the class name in which it resides and is syntactically similar to a method. So it is similar to a method, and one of the special properties of a constructor is that your constructor name can't be anything. It must be same like your class name. Whatever class name you have given, all the letters, small letters, capital letters, how you have written your class name, in that same way you have to give a name to your constructor. Okay, a constructor is similar to a method, but special property is that its name must be same like your class name. There is no obligation, there is no counterpoint on this one. It must be same like your class name followed by parenthesis and at the end semicolon. Okay, so likewise, once defined, the constructor is automatically called immediately after the object is created before the new operator completes. So whenever the way how we are going to call a constructor, there is no special way, there is no special invocation of a constructor. As you are creating the object, at that instance, at that point only the constructor will be called. Like whenever we want, we are calling our regular methods, isn't it? Our regular methods, with the help of a reference object, whenever you want, as many number of times you want, that many number of times you are calling the regular methods, that many number of times you are invoking the regular methods. But the constructor call, the constructor invocation will be done at the time of creation of object itself. It is purely used to initialize the object. It is purely used to allocate the memory for an object. Remember this one. So the parentheses are needed after the class name to call the constructor for that class. Yes, already I told you we need to put the parentheses, and when you are calling the constructor, you need this semicolon as well. When you are defining the constructor, no need to use the semicolon, but when you are calling the constructor, there is a need of semicolon at the end of the constructor call. So constructor defining we do generally inside a class. Constructor call, that also we do inside a class, but from other point inside the main method, we can say. So the next thing, when we do not explicitly, yes, generally whenever there is an object creation, there must be a constructor definition associated with that one, because how we are creating, let us say our class name is here. I will explain that one, all those points. Okay, so let us say I have a class. Okay, I need to connect my whiteboard. Let me just give 1 second. Okay, yeah, now it is connected. So see, if I have a class, my class name I'm giving like test. Okay, in it I'm keeping some instance variables, some, assume it I'm keeping some instance variables. Take a pen. So I'm keeping some instance variables like some int a, double b, likewise. Then I'm writing a constructor for this class. So how I should write, how there will not be any return type for the constructor. The constructor will not have any return type. So the constructor name, how we have to give like test only. The constructor name must be same like your class name, followed by parenthesis, set of parenthesis. And if you are defining it, if you are defining the constructor, if you are writing the internal part of a constructor over here, so no need to put the semicolon at the end. Take the set of curly brackets and sop system.out.println of this is my constructor, this is my constructor. I think it's better to do it on a edit plus, okay, rather than showing all these things over here, because it is completely related to coding. It's better to do on uh, what we call the edit plus. So before moving ahead, so let me just complete the few points over here. Okay, it got opened. Yes. So let me just take one simple uh, class over here. So that is my class. I'm taking the class name as test. Okay, so internal to this class I'm declaring some variables. Okay, now first we will discuss only the constructor demonstration. So class test followed by, I will make the constructor over here. Constructor, it should be same like your class name. Okay, then go over here and put your system dot, s must be capital, system dot out dot println off. So here you put this is my constructor, this is my constructor. So this is a simple constructor definition we have given inside the, it is not the default constructor. So what is default constructor, I will explain afterwards. So this is not the default constructor, this is a user defined constructor only, without any parameters. This is a normal constructor without any parameters. So now what I need to do, I need to write another class, class test demo. Okay, inside it put public static void main of string args. Okay, then write one simple statement, that is system dot out dot println of yes, this is from main. This is from main. Yeah, make it like, go to the end like this. So over here, create the object for your test class. So test t1 equals to, what we need to do, use the new operator. This is the reference creation is over. Object reference we have created. Now we are allocating the memory. How we are allocating the memory? Using new followed by the constructor call. So what is constructor call? What is my constructor name? So test off. So this is my constructor call. So over here we are calling the constructor. This, what it will do, the invocation of constructor will allocate the memory to t1, but it will also invoke the method in constructor method which is there inside the test class. So obviously what should happen, as you are creating this test class object, that is t1, it should call the test constructor without any parameters. It should call the test constructor without any parameters. So what will happen? So before this message, this is from main, you will get this message. This is my constructor. This is my constructor. So first, the control will come over here. It will create this t1 object. So when it is creating this t1 object, it will invoke the test constructor call. So immediately it will go to the class and it will invoke this definition. So you will get this message on the output screen. That is, this is my constructor. Then it will print this message. This is from main. So now save this program. Save as. How we have to save this program? With main function, main method class name, test demo. So with this name we have to save. Okay. So see, many students, they said they find out a way of not doing in this, not using edit plus and not giving the name same like your public class name, program name. All these things are different ways. Okay. So I'm following this way to keep all my activities on track, because there is a possibility, because many times what happens, if I go randomly, like how you people are suggesting, don't make any standard, don't go specifically, don't give rules on giving the file name, don't give rules on giving the class name. All those things are not required. We can do without those things inside Eclipse, inside NetBeans, inside VB Script. Many different apps we are using, many different IDEs we are using. There all these things are not compulsory, not standard. Yes, I totally agree with you. You can go any random way also, but when you use this edit plus, or when you use the classic approach of executing Java programs, all these things are somewhat mandatory. But when you do the same thing inside your IDEs, there the things will be different. But whenever you are compiling the program, remember this thing, whenever you are compiling the program, give the program name, and whenever you are executing the program, give the public class name. Don't give the program name over there. So this sort of confusion will come. So if we make the program name and public class name same, public class in the sense where we are keeping the main method. Okay, if you make the program name and if you make the public class name same, then you can avoid such kind of confusion. So at that point, what will happen? At the time of compilation, you have to give the same program name with .java extension, and at the time of execution, you have to give the same class name because we are giving class name and program name same, so you have to give that same name without .java extension. So this sort of understanding we can have, this sort of clarity we can have, so that we can avoid that confusion of giving what we have to give. What name we have to give at the time of compilation and what name we have to give at the time of execution. That confusion we can avoid, and we can give the same name in both the places. Okay, when you are doing the compilation, give .java, and when you are doing the execution, don't give .java. That's it. So that's the reason here testdemo.java, my file name. then hit the enter key. The program got saved. Now go to tools, compile, and moreover to work with Edit Plus, whatever setting I have shown, to work with Edit Plus you have to go in this way only. Okay, as I told you many times, Edit Plus is a lightweight IDE. Then go to run. You can see this is my constructor. That message I am getting first because I am creating the object. I am not invoking my constructor, isn't it? With the help of object, I am not invoking my constructor, even though I am getting my message. How I am getting my message means because at the time of creation of my object, my constructor is invoked automatically. Then I am getting this is from main. So the second message I am getting afterwards. So I will try to show you one more thing. So I will put one regular method also in this one. So void, what should we give? Example, example method I have taken. Okay, and in this, this is from method. I will write a message system dot out dot sorry out dot println of. Okay, this is from method. This is from method. I have taken like this. This is from method. So now what I am doing, I want to invoke this method. Is it going to be invoked automatically? Okay, no, it will not be invoked automatically. You see, program execution compilation successful, and run. You will get only two messages. This is my constructor and this is from main. I'm getting only two messages. I'm not getting this message. This is from method. I'm not getting, because the reason, the normal method, the regular method, it needs to be invoked with the help of object. So that we need to do over here. So what is my object name? T1. T1 is my object name. T1 dot example of. So now I am invoking my method. So I will get that message after the this is from main message. First you will get this is my constructor, then you will get this is from main, and finally you will get this is from method. Okay, this is from method, or you can even keep example method. This is from example method. Okay, so now compile, done. Now you put run. Yes, see over here. This is my constructor. This is from main and this is from example method. So three things I have shown you. How a constructor is similar to a method, but it is having special properties. There is no return type for the constructor, as you can see. Okay, there is no return type. You can have parameters that we will discuss afterwards, but there is no return type to the constructor, and the constructor name must be same like your class name, and there is no explicit invocation of the constructor. At the time of creation of the object, the constructor will be invoked automatically. These three important. There are some other points, but for now you remember these 3 points. The constructor is similar to a method. The constructor will not have any return type. The constructor name must be same like your class name. The constructor will not be invoked explicitly, and you cannot invoke the same you cannot invoke the constructor manually. Okay, it should not be invoked explicitly. At the time of creation of the object, the constructor will be invoked automatically. Remember these things. Okay, the next thing, yeah, we need to go to our PPT and we need to see what concepts we have over there. It is almost 20 minutes now. Okay, so yes, if you don't put a constructor within a class, then what will happen? And what it will do with the yes, we need to remove this. Okay, I will put this one, the example method, but I have removed the constructor. Okay, I have removed the constructor. Now I'm declaring some variables, int a, then double b, two variables, two instance variables I have declared, and one method example. So now I have created the object for uh, test class, that is T1. Now suppose if I print my instance variables system.out.println of what I am doing, I am printing the instance variables a value a value colon close plus a, okay, then print b value also, okay. So system dot out dot println of b value colon, okay, plus b, like this. Now you save it. So simply what we are doing, we have removed the explicit definition of my constructor, user defined definition of my constructor, and I'm invoking the constructor over here. So when I invoke the constructor, what will happen? Internal to my program, internal to my JVM, what will happen? See, I will not get any issues. It is giving, okay, a variable. Okay, can't find symbol a. Acha. So we can't access this a directly, right? T1 dot and this b also T1 dot. With the help of reference only we can access, because they are the class members. They are the class members. They are not the regular variables and they are not part of your main method. They are declared inside the class, so we need to access them with the help of object. I forgot that one. So compile. Yes, no issues. So now, yes, how the constructor got invoked when we don't have the constructor over here, definition over here, how the constructor got invoked, how it got invoked, and how it has allotted the memory for this one, in the sense, even if you don't put the constructor inside your class, your Java will add the constructor, default constructor, like this. This is your default constructor. This is your default constructor. Only this one. Test followed by two parentheses, two curly brackets. Two parentheses, then two curly brackets. This is your default constructor. So like this, your Java will add. So now keeping this, I hope it will not give any issues. See, we are not getting any issue. So what the Java is doing, it is adding this automatically. Even if you don't put this one, this is your default constructor. Even if you don't put this one, your Java is adding this one automatically. A constructor definition without parameters and without any statements, without body, without even body, I mean to say. It is your Java is adding this one by default. Even if you don't put, your Java will add it. Okay. So because of that reason, when you are invoking the constructor, you are not getting the error. If the Java is failed to add this one, then what will happen? Yeah, your compiler will generate this error. It will generate an error over here stating that the suitable definition is not found. Okay. So likewise, you will get an error. You are not getting this error. That means your Java is adding this one. Okay. The default constructor, the Java is adding. This is your default constructor. Constructor definition. What is it? This is definition. Like this, you remember. Hopefully you understood. So now save, compile. We will see the output. Compile. Okay. I just want to show you that all your members, when you are invoking the default constructor, all your data members, instance variables will be initialized to 0. That I want to show. Just run it. See here, 0, 0.0 we got. When we are printing the values without initialization, when we are printing the values, A value is 0 we got, B value is 0.0 we got. So that last statement, if you read over here, okay, here it is saying the default constructor automatically initializes all instance variables to 0. This also I have shown you practically. So what does it mean by default constructor? Even if we don't write any constructor definition explicitly inside our class, your Java will add a constructor definition by its own. We call such a constructor as a default constructor. This is the definition of your default constructor. Okay. Java will add this definition by its own. We call this constructor definition as default constructor. And the default constructor syntax or the default constructor code also I have shown you. It is similar to your class name followed by two parentheses, followed by two curly brackets, without any parameters and without any body of the constructor. Okay, simple thing. And your default constructor constructor initializes all the instance variables to 0. All the instance variables to 0. Remember this one. So what next thing we have? Constructor demonstration already I have shown you. Next thing, the parameterized constructor. Yes, if you don't want your parameters to take the default values, that is zeros, and you want your parameters to be specific, okay, one way is you can do with the help of a normal method, or you can even initialize those variables inside your main method. Okay, so all these things are hectic rules. Okay, hectic coding thing. But with the help of a constructor also, you can initialize your parameters. How you can do that one, I will show you now. Your variables inside a class you can initialize with the help of a constructor. Such a constructor we call it as a parameterized constructor. So now we need to see the demonstration of parameterized construction. To initialize object properties with various values, I mean various in the sense different values, not zeros. Okay, rather than having the values for all objects, the parameterized constructor is used. So if you initialize the values inside a class, then what will happen? All the objects will get the same values. That is not our intention, isn't it? If you create products all of same types, definitely at some point will they will become tasteless, isn't it? Nobody will opt them. Nobody will assume that your mobile phones. Okay, if all are coming with same properties, same features, then what will happen? Definitely nobody will accept, isn't it? After using for some time, you will get what we call bored, isn't it? The mobile phone will look to you a boring thing. So because of that reason, what they have done, they are giving some evolution. I mean, step by step, they are giving some evolution. So change is always required. Without change, things will get weird. That is what I want to make a point over here. So to have the change between the objects, we are going for parameterized constructors, or we are going for different values for our instance variables. I will demonstrate this with a beautiful example. Let me just shift to my edit plus. So now this test class only I am taking with a and b variables. So let us say if I initialize this a and b values here itself, if I make this a value as 20, this b value as 40, now what will happen? So remove these things, this unnecessary stuff, because you may get confused. So this also I will remove the method, or else let it be, let it have. Okay, like this, let it have. Uh, then remove, yeah, this we need. This you remove. Okay. Then suppose I have created T1 object and I am printing AB values. So now what values I will get? So generally I will get the values, A value as 20 and B value as 40. Just go and compile. Compilation successful. Now I am printing, run. See, A value like 20 I got and B value like 40 I got. Okay. So if I create another object, T2 object, if I create another object, T2 object, so if I print the value of A using T2 object, value of B using T2 object, now what I will get? Just go and check, compile, done, run. See, for both the instance variables inside T1 object, instance variables inside T2 object, we are getting the same values, 20, 40, 20, 40. That is not our intention, isn't it? All objects should have different values. So one way is with the help of this example method we can do. Example method. So here you take the parameters temp1 comma double temp2 like this. So now what we have to do, see, all these are very important techniques what I am showing over here. So then A is equals to temp1 I am saying, then B is equals to temp2 I am saying. So now remove these two things. These things are not required. Just remove them. Okay. But you need to declare, right? So int A double B. Okay. So now these are my class members. This is my method, and inside my method I am initializing A and B values. So now what I have to do before printing their values, because constructor will make them to initialize zeros, but we have not initialized A and B values. So what you will get, if you don't do anything, just put like this, what you will get? You will get all zeros, because your default constructor will make them as zeros. Okay. Yes, you will get all zeros. Just see. All zeros you are getting. So now what we have to do, using the method, example method, we can initialize the values of A and B. So how that one will be? So we need to call that example method. Example of, pass the value for first A. I'm keeping like 20. For first I'm keeping as it is. So next is 40. A value, B value. Then using T2 object, again call the same. T2 dot example. T2 dot example of, keep some different values over here. 24.44 like this. A value 24, B value 44. Here A value 20, B value 40. Like this we passed. Now save the program. Tools, compile. Just check what it will give. Error. Can't find symbol. T1. No, not T1. Example. Here you can see I misspelled the constructor name. Example. Where it is? Here. Example. Okay. Now save it. Tools, compile. Success. Now run it. Yes, you can see we are getting different values now. From from T1 object, T1 instance variables, we have initialized 2040. So 2040 we got. T2 instance variables, 2444 we initialized. So we are getting 2444 like this. So this is also one way of initializing your instance variables. But you can also initialize the instance variables with the help of constructor, because we already have a constructor, a method, isn't it? A default method inside our class. So why we need to go for a user defined method, isn't it? We should not do in that way. It is the what we call the inefficiency in the coding. So we need to avoid this. So instead of taking a separate method to initialize our instance variables, the programmers or the developers, what they thought is we can use the constructor to initialize all our object instance variables. So instead of going for a separate method, we can go with constructor itself. And if you do it with the help of a constructor, there is an advantage. You no need to call that constructor specifically, how we are doing for methods. Here, when you are doing the initialization with methods, you need to call those methods with the help of object references. Specifically, you need to call them. But if you do the same job with the constructors, no need to call them specifically, because they will be invoked automatically. Okay, so that concept here I will show. So my constructor name, it must be same like your class name. So I will put this thing inside my constructor. Same, just I have removed the function name, method name, and I added my constructor name. So now what will happen? No need to write these things. So here, whatever parameters you are passing over here, same parameters here you pass. 20, 40. Just remove this statement. Entirely you remove this statement. Here also same thing. 24, 44. And here you remove this. Save it. Now test, compile. Yes, success message. Now you see same output you will get. 20, 40, 24, 44. From where we got these values in the sense? From the constructor. So this sort of constructor, as we are passing the parameters to constructor, we call this sort of constructor definition or constructor call as parameterized constructor, because it is having the parameters, and those parameters are helpful in initializing the instance variables. Remember this one. See, when you are learning Java, the terminology is very, very, very important. Without the terminology, you will unable to write even a single line of theory. So terminology, how I am dictating, what sort of terms I am using over here in order to represent every programming logic, you need to remember all those things. Hopefully you will do it. So this is a simple program, so this thing is not required as you might have observed. So I will remove this entirely. This is also in the comment section, so I will remove it entirely. So now you hopefully understood. Instead of taking a method separately to initialize the instance variables, that we can do with the help of constructor itself, because every class will have constructor, and when you are creating the object, at that point you need the constructor call. So you can pass the parameters to that constructor call so that you can initialize the instance variables. So that difference I have shown you, that difference I have given you with clarity. So we'll quickly go and we'll see what other concepts we have. The next concept is the garbage collection in Java. This is one of the important concept. They will ask this concept for 2 marks, okay, as a short answer question. So what is this garbage collection, and how Java will do it, how Java will support this garbage collection? Is there any destructor concept in Java? If it is not, then how the objects gets destroyed in Java? All those things we will try to understand over here in this particular concept. See, garbage collection in Java. So quickly, yes, when we are creating the objects, we are using the new operator, isn't it? The purpose of using new operator is to allocate the memory for the objects, isn't it, from the heap. So when you create the class reference will stays inside the stack, and when you use the new operator followed by the constructor call, it will take the memory from the heap and allocates that memory to the object reference. Okay, so objects are dynamically allocated by using the new operator. Dynamically allocated means what? Dynamically allocated with memory using the new operator. Okay, Java takes a different way to destroy the object and release that memory. So once the memory is allocated, it has to be destroyed, isn't it? It has to be deallocated. So without which what will happen? We will run out of the memory. That we don't want. If you're running the big application, very big Java application, and if your Java does not support the deallocation of memory, that is nothing but destruction of the objects, then it is useless of writing the programs in Java, useless of following the Java programming language, because in a span of time, ultimately what will happen? We will run out of the memory if there is no destruction concept. So ultimately, as allocation of memory plays an important role in Java programming, the destruction is also going to play a vital role in Java programming. So it handles deallocation automatically. There is no need to call the destructor, or there is no need to depend on the destructor to deallocate the memory specifically inside the Java programming. It handles the deallocation automatically. So we no need to bother about how many objects we have created. Okay, we no need to bother about the memory those objects are consuming. All those things will be handled, all those things will be destroyed, deallocated automatically by Java programming once it ends the program execution. So as long as your program is inside the JVM, the memory will be with the program. Okay, the memory will be occupied with the program. But when it comes out of the JVM, when the program ends its execution, immediately after that, all the objects whatever we have created will get destroyed. Okay, this particular technique is called as garbage collection in Java. This particular technique is called as garbage collection in Java. So it is something like a recycling thing. Okay, recycling the garbage in real time scenarios, real time environment. If you are aware of the stuff, they will take the important stuff from the garbage what we throw out. They will take the important stuff and they will sell that stuff to some garbage repositories. Those repositories, what they will do, they will resell those items to the companies or to the recycling units. So what they will do, they will simply recycle whatever they can. So in that same manner, your Java will also do the recycling job automatically. We no need to bother about, we no need to have a kind of tension in our mind that how we are going to release the memory. Okay, your Java will do it automatically, and this phenomenon we call it as garbage collection in Java, and it is automatic. Remember this one. So when no references to an object exist, that object is assumed to be no longer needed and the memory occupied by that object can be released. So as long as your job of creating an object is over, and if you're no more using that object in your programming code, then the memory associated with that object, the memory allocated to that object will be released automatically. Okay, so there is no need to destroy the object explicitly. Garbage collection only occurs during the execution of your program. So during the execution of the program only it will occurs, but when it will occur, before it sees the closing of the program, end of the program. So it will start at some point, it will do the logic processing of your entire program, and it will end at some point. So when it will end, as the last step, it will do the garbage collection. Before ending, as the last step, it will do the garbage collection. Okay. So the finalize method. So as I said, when you are coming out of the program, when you are releasing the memory of all the objects, when you are releasing the memory of all the objects, when you are coming out of the program, when your program is exiting from the JVM, as a last step, if you want to perform some action, some sort of what we call important job. Okay, I will give an example for that kind of job. Let us say you have written an application, a database application, where you are interacting with the database. So what you do generally, if you want to interact with the database, you need to establish a connection with the database. Okay, many of you, if you have the knowledge of website development, or if you have the knowledge of interactive dynamic website development, there you will understand these type of things, isn't it? Whenever we need to talk with the database, whenever we need to interact with the database, we need to connect with the database first of all. So that connect, we need to write a program logic, a program statement for the connection. Okay, and after performing all the processing with the database, all the suitable jobs, all the required jobs with the database, at some point what we need to do, we need to close that connection as well. And when exactly we need to close that connection? At the end of the program. After performing all the logic processing, we need to close the what we call connection, and that connection closing we will put inside this finalize method, inside this finalize method as a last step. As a last step, whatever actions you want to perform, put them inside finalize method, as simple as it is. So see here the suitable statements related to this what we call the finalize method. Sometimes when we have something to perform while an object is destroying itself, if the object is destroying itself, so if you have some actions, some jobs to be performed, that you put inside this finalize methods. Okay, we can do so by calling the finalize method. Okay, by using finalization, we can define specific actions that will occur when an object is just about to reclaim by the garbage collector. When an object, it is reclaiming, or it is releasing, it is deallocating the memory of an object, before doing that, it will call the finalize method. If it is there, it will call the finalize method, or we can say to do so, it will call the finalize method. Okay, so even if you are not writing the finalize method inside your what we call inside your program, by default it will add the finalize method. Okay, that also I will show you. So by invoking this finalize method, what the Java is doing, it is releasing the memory allocated to an object. It is deallocating the memory allocated to an object. So this thing to show, let me just shift my attention to this edit plus. So over here I will take the example of same class, but I will remove all these things. So here no parameterized constructor, because this will make the things complicated. And to the point we have to discuss, to the point we have to narrate in the exam. Don't go for unnecessary things. Don't make the program complex, which will make the examiner confused. Okay? Don't make the examiner confused. To the point you write your stuff. Definitely you will get good marks. So remove all these things. Okay, I need one object creation. So remove this. So now just see inside the constructor I'm writing a simple message. That is okay. This is my last concept, and with this we conclude. And hopefully this garbage collection, with this garbage, it is an important topic. With this garbage collection we have about to complete your first unit. Okay, for CSC people it is already over, first unit. For IT people it will take more time. So system.out.println of, here you put the message. So that is, this is my constructor, this is my constructor. Then here inside it, remove these parameters, no need of these parameters. And then here object we have created, right? So don't do anything. So if I do like this, how the program will execute? It will call the test constructor. Why it call the test constructor means because I wrote it explicitly over here. So I will get this message. This is my constructor. That's it. So step by step I want to show. So this is program compilation is successful. Now run. Yes, we are getting, this is my constructor message. Then yes, when it is executing this program, what it is doing, first it is creating this object. Okay, when it is creating this object, it is allocating the memory to this object, and it is deallocating the memory, even though we are not performing anything. So when it comes to this statement, it will create the object and it will allocate the memory, because we are calling the test constructor over here. Then when it is exiting the block, when it is exiting this block, it will deallocate the memory allocated to constructor. How it will deallocate? In the sense, by calling the finalize method. Even if the finalize method is not there inside the class, it will explicitly add it. Okay, it will explicitly add that finalize method into your into your program. It will add explicitly that finalize method like this. So we will see by keeping it whether it will give any error or not. Compile. Yes, finalize. Return type required. So maybe it is void. No. Test overrides. Yeah, protected void we have to write, I think. If it not give like this also, but we will try to add some code to it. Yes, protected void we have to write. So protected void finalize. So this type of thing, your Java, even though we did not put any what we call body of the finalize method, it is accepting it. Why means? Because your Java, it will automatically, like how it is adding the default constructor. Even if you are not keeping any constructor, what it is doing, it is adding some default constructor by default, so as to allocate the memory. So in order to deallocate the memory, it will call the finalize method. Okay, it will add the finalize method body, and it will call the finalize method automatically. It will call the finalize method automatically just to deallocate the memory. So whether it is calling automatically or not, we will check. So this you remove and then go and run. See, this is my constructor I am getting. So if I put some message inside the finalize method, out dot print ln of, okay, this is my object creation over here. Something happened, something messy happened. Okay, here go to the end and here you put constructor creation, because here we are creating constructor creation, and come down over here you put one statement. This is my constructor, okay, destruction, this is my constructor destruction, creation and destruction. So I will not call this finalize method. As you can see, I'm only creating the object, I'm not calling the finalize method. So if it is calling that finalize method, I need to get this message as well. So save this, compile. Okay, so now you run. Okay, this is my constructor creation, so we are not getting that one. It should call that one, or else shall, I think it is going to add here. We'll just see what will happen. Somewhere it will add and somewhere it will call the finalize method. No, it will add here itself. In the class itself it will add, but I don't know why we are not getting the output. Maybe there is some mistake we are doing. Okay, so anyhow, maybe there is something we are missing, because it is not giving the output. Okay, so whatever statement you are writing inside that finalize method, because it will invoke the finalize method, so whatever you are writing inside that finalize, you need to get as an output even if you don't call it. So that we will discuss in our next class. Already it is almost like near to an hour, so we are running out of time. So the problem related to this finalize method I will explain in my next session, hopefully. Thank you very much, students. And this garbage collection question I have given in your assignment. Today I will post that assignment questions into your groups. Try to complete them on or before deadline. If you need extension or something in that deadline, you can communicate with your head of the department. You can get the permission from your head of the department. Just post a message to your CR. He will take the permission from the head of the department, because many of the students, they are saying they are not comfortable with the deadline. They need the extension in the deadline. That is not in my hand. You need to interact with the HOD. Okay, thank you very much, students. So till then, we'll discuss the further concepts in our next session.